So Avengers Endgame is officially out in most major markets. And so if you've seen the movie, this is it. It's time for Jake Mellor's spoiler discussion. And I'm really glad that you guys are here. If you haven't seen it though, spoilers are definitely ahead. So go out and see it. But then obviously, come right back. Okay, so they pretty much gave away nothing in the trailers. And me, myself, I only saw 2 plot leaks. There were actually really more photos. The first one was Cap versus Cap, which we'll get to, and the second was Professor Hulk, which if you checked out my 5 theories, I had a pretty good idea that he was going to be in it anyway. But even that really just left more questions for me. And I know that my non-spoiler review, which you can check out down below, sounded very vague and incoherent. You didn't really know what I was trying to say, and that's because everything in this movie is pretty much a spoiler. So the movie actually starts with Hawkeye's family dying, which we saw in the trailers. Now, as soon as we saw this, we all knew what was going to happen, but let me tell you, even though I knew it was coming, it was still so emotional to see. Jeremy Renner, you did great. In fact, all the actors that were in this movie, they killed it. All the actors really did bring their A game. Then it moved on to Tony and Nebula in space, and it turns out at the end of Infinity War that the ship had been broken of some sorts, and luckily Captain Marvel came to their rescue. Little convenient, don't you think? They didn't really explain why she was there. I'm just gonna call it coincidence, but if you do have any theories or you do know, obviously comment down below, let me know. But for now, I'm just gonna roll with it. And so all 3 of them come back to Earth on the Benatar. And I know it sounds horrible, but I liked how woeful he looked. He genuinely looked like a man who'd been trapped in space, gone a little crazy, because you know, he was up in space. Wouldn't we all go a little crazy? And he brought up the Age of Ultron scene as well. You know, that scene where he wants to put a suit of armor around the world?
How are you guys planning on beating that?
Together. We'll lose, and we'll do that together too.
You could really feel the emotion in the character, because all he wanted to do was save the world, and like I said in my other video, because of this they lost. So now that Captain Marvel is here, they realise that Thanos used the stones. The remaining Avengers, along with Captain Marvel, decide to go pay him a little visit in space. And when they realise that he used the stones to destroy the stones, Thor chops off his head. Okay, so I'm not going to go through the whole story beat by beat, but I just wanted to explain those opening parts, because that was really all the plot they gave away in the trailers. Kind of proving to us how well they kept this under wraps. And now, it's about to get weird. So this movie was very well put together. They really needed that, because I felt they did a good character study on a lot of the individuals. And this made the payoff at the end, because we know what's coming, a lot more impactful. And whereas Infinity War was Thanos' story, this is definitely an Avengers story. And so as you know, we flash to 5 years later, and the world is worse off than it ever was, so Thanos' theory really didn't work well. The Avengers are split up, and none of them are moving on with life, apart from Tony. And I like that Tony had a kid and had Pepper, and the one that was worse off actually came out the best overall. And I like the dynamic that he had between his daughter and himself. Great acting by Robert Downey Jr. I love you 3000. That's going to be a thing now, isn't it? And so after the 5 years, as all hope seems to be lost, and yes, pun intended, Scott comes out of the quantum realm because a rat steps on the button. So basically, do we need to thank rats for saving their reality? I also just want to apologise to my sister. She has rats, and I've always thought they were quite useless. But if I'm ever stuck in the quantum realm, please send the rats over to my van. I'd love it. She's actually really cool. She has a TikTok account. It's definitely worth a check out. She's got a lot of cool stuff on there. I'll link it down below. Damn, there's going to be a lot of links in this video. So now that Scott's out, he tells the Avengers, hey, I wasn't trapped in the quantum realm for 5 years. For me, it only felt like 5 hours. And boom. Yep, that's right, time travel. And they pretty much reference every time travel movie. Back to the Future, Quantum Leap, Hot Tub Time Machine, one of my guilty pleasures, Hot Tub Time Machine 2. And they didn't bring it up, but the way they look at time travel was very much like Hot Tub Time Machine 2. So maybe that's worth a check out. And so Tony was against it at first, but when he found a way to do it to keep the present and only bringing back those who were dusted, he thought it was worth a try. And so now it gets a little bit Spielberg-y. They have like a Muppets Get the Band back together, which I thought was really cool. And so we now have Professor Hulk, which is awesome because it takes the mind of Bruce and the body of the Hulk. And to be honest, on top of obviously Thor and Ant-Man who bring a lot of comedic relief, Professor Hulk was hilarious. I really like that one part where Ant-Man's going in and out of the quantum realm and Hulk makes a joke and then Black Widow gives him that look and he looks at her and goes, hey, we're talking about time travel here. Either it's all a joke or none of it is. And then he looks at Ant-Man and goes, we're good to go. I just thought there's just a lot of funny things like that. And Thor is now Fat Thor because he was so upset about it. He's kind of gone into a bit of a depression. He's now drinking beer, eating pizza, junk food, playing a lot of Fortnite, and spent a lot of time hanging out with Korg and Meek, which seem to be enablers. Now we all have Halloween costumes. You might get mistaken as the Big Lebowski though.
I am not Mr. Lebowski. I'm the dude.
And then lastly, since the death of Hawkeye's family, he's been going around killing people, basically, and Black Widow brings him back in. So now we have the team back together. And so now we kind of get into the main plot of the film. where you have the 3 different teams going to different points in time. Kind of like a trip down memory lane to all the MCU films. We have Hulk, Ant-Man, Cap, and Iron Man going to 2012 New York where the Avengers took place, because as they said, there were 3 Infinity Stones there at one time. We didn't know it though. Thor and Rocket go to 2013's Thor the Dark World to get the Ether, which is the Reality Stone. And lastly, Rhodey, Nebula, Black Widow, and Hawkeye go to 2014 into space to go get the Soul Stone and the Power Stone. Now remember when I said you definitely need to go see the other films? This is why. Because the more you've seen the other films, the more you end up getting out of these films. And I really like how they took the different films that they went back to and ended up expanding and looking at them from different angles. They had Tilda Swinton, the Ancient One, at the Sanctum during the New York battle with Loki. They had Robert Redford at the New York battle. They even had Crossbones and his gang there as well. I like that line that Ant-Man said where he's like, how could you not know they were bad guys? They're wearing all black. They look like bad guys. I was like, yeah, that makes sense. I'm looking at you, David Dobrik. Change the outfit. I'm kidding, you're clearly doing fine. Even Natalie Portman came back, and I seem to remember during Thor the Dark World that she hated those movies. So I was really surprised, and I thought it was really cool to see her back again. And I liked the way that Cap got the scepter back. He walked into the elevator with Crossbones and all them, and I thought, oh god, they're gonna have a reenactment of the elevator scene in The Winter Soldier.
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
But no, he's evolved. He just leant in and said, Hail Hydra, which I thought was sick. And then obviously, like I said before, they had the Cap versus Cap fight. And he kicked past Cap's ass, because that's America's ass.
I understood that reference.
And when I was talking about slow character development and Tony ran into his dad, I thought that was very touching because obviously in Civil War they revealed he never got to say goodbye to his parents. And so being able to say goodbye to Howard with what's to come, and we're still not there yet, I just found that was really touching. Plus, we had one of my favourite Stan Lee cameos, which was young Stan, 70s Stan, driving down the street. And I really liked it because it showed that positive energy I felt that I felt Stan Lee always brought. And how about that scene with Black Widow and Hawkeye? As soon as they landed on Vormir, I went, damn. One of them's not getting out of there. But they directed it so well that all the way up until, spoilers, well, it's a spoiler review, Black Widow died, I really had no idea who it was going to be. Was it going to be Black Widow, Hawkeye, Black Widow, Hawkeye? But it was Black Widow. And I liked her death. Not her death per se, but I liked that throughout the film, they showed that people were upset about her death. Because, Quicksilver, a theory I didn't get right, unfortunately, but you can't win them all. When he died, Scarlet Witch was upset, but then immediately moved on. And nobody talks about him at all. And yet he was meant to be such an important part of her life. Now this is the part I really liked, which was when present Nebula and past Nebula sunk up their Wi-Fi or, whatever they have that syncs up, which Thanos then found out about, bringing Thanos and Gamora back into the loop, which I was kind of worried, to be honest, about how they were going to bring them back. And they did it in a very fulfilling, organic way. And I didn't feel like they cheated at all on that. I do have to say, though, it was a little bit weird when they brought the stones back and they just magically had the gauntlet all ready to go, because Thanos had to go to Neverdalia to create this crazy gauntlet, and yet Iron Man just built it. But, whatever. Again, just roll with it. I just kind of count Iron Man's armor as just magic now. But it got put on the Hulk's hand, he snapped his fingers, and it appeared that everything was coming back to normal. But Thanos comes back through the quantum realm, so now we have past Thanos, and he just blew up the Avengers compound. And then we had that cool moment with the 3 trilogy holders, Cap, Iron Man, Thor, all working together to get Thanos, which was sick. And then probably the second best part in the movie, and I think you know what it is, when Cap picks up Mjolnir. Man. It was one of those moments when Thor got the hammer from 2013, I was like, hey, what are you up to? And then they were fighting with it, and Thor was getting beaten up by Thanos, and he was about to die, and I was like, oh. Then you see the hammer rise, and you're like, oh, hey. And then Cap catches it. And then we get into this kick-ass battle, which was awesome. You've got Thor using the lightning to charge up Iron Man's suit, like in the first Avengers. Thanos starts beating them all down, and it's just Cap remaining. And then you see in the background, you've got Thanos, you've got the Black Orders back, you've got those shark things from the original Avengers, the Chitauri, the Outriders, and it's all of them versus Cap. And then you hear it. And again, this is one of those moments where if you've watched the other movies, it pays off, and you just hear, on your left.
On your left. On your left.
Don't say it. Don't you say
On
it.
your left.
Come on!
And then one of Doctor Strange's portals opens, Black Panther and Wakanda comes through. And then another one opens, and you see Doctor Strange, the Guardian, Spider-Man, and you've got the Sorcerers, and then basically every single person from all the Avengers movies comes in. I'm talking Korg, Meek, Valkyrie, even Pepper's there in a new Iron Man suit. Ant-Man becomes Giant Man, the Hulk's there, Rocket Raccoon, War Machine, Scarlet Witch, and then they have probably the coolest moment in the whole of the MCU. I'd even say the coolest moment in all the superhero movies. The camera starts to pan across, you have that music, you see all of the superheroes. Thor lands down, and then it pans to Cap, and I'm like, oh, is he gonna say it? Is he? Nah. He's gonna say it. Avengers! Assemble. What I loved about it was such a big battle, and yet a bunch of the different characters got their own moments. A lot of them got their own moments. Do you guys remember when the Avengers came out and there was 6 superheroes and it just blew your mind? Now we've got talking trees, raccoons, pieces of rock, magicians, and you just roll with it. Imagine being a kid growing up in the MCU. Nothing must surprise those kids anymore. And so you're probably thinking, hey, where's Captain Marvel during all this? And I was thinking that as well. And then just as I'm thinking about that, she comes in, blows up a bunch of ships, the fight's going on, it's crazy, and then it happens. Thanos gets the gauntlet back on. He's got all the gems. He goes to snap his fingers. Iron Man looks over at Strange and he goes. And I didn't know what it meant at the time, but clearly Tony did. And he goes up, grabs Thanos for about a second. Thanos pushes him off and he goes to snap again and he goes, I am inevitable. And nothing happens. And then it goes over to Iron Man and he looks up and you see all the gems start to go up his hand and he says, I am Iron Man. Bringing it full circle. And see, what I love about Iron Man is he evolves. If you look back at all of his movies, he only needs to fail once, and then the next time he's able to beat it. Going all the way back to the first Iron Man when he gets up to space and his suit starts to freeze, so he fixes it. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I teared up when Iron Man died, but it was a very, very cool moment. And Thanos, knowing his defeat, himself, the whole army, got dusted. And that theory that I had that there was going to be a wedding, I was wrong. Turned out it was a funeral, but all Tony wanted to do was save the world. And a fellow YouTuber, Grace Randolph, who does Beyond the Trailer, very cool, she put it very well. Tony's been treated pretty horrible, and yet all he was trying to do was protect the world, protect the world, protect the world. And when they failed, he was devastated by it. And now coming full circle, he snapped his fingers, and he fulfilled what he wanted to do, which is why Strange gave up the stone, because he knew he'd only lose once, and because he couldn't get that glove off the first time, he'd find the way to get the gloves onto him. Alright, so let's lighten this up a little bit. One of my favourite parts of the movies was at the very end, when Thor gave up his kingdom to Valkyrie, and then he went off with the Guardians to kind of, find himself, I guess. And so the Guardians now are looking for past Gamora in the present. And one of the funniest parts of the movies, which was one of the funniest parts in Infinity War, so I'm hoping that Thor's actually in the new Guardians, but that part when they've got Star-Lord and Thor talking about who's in charge, I just thought that was hilarious. He goes, no, which is you? I just thought that was really funny. One of those things you've got to see. I'm assuming you have seen it. And then lastly, when Steve goes to put back the stones and the hammer, back in time to put everything right. He's only meant to be gone 5 seconds, and he doesn't come back. And then you look over to the bench, Falcon, Bucky, Hulk, see a man sitting there. And it's Old Man Cap. He gives the shield to Falcon, passing on the mantle, and then the final shot of the movie is Steve and Peggy back in time, and Steve finally gets that last dance he's wanted. And what a way to finish the film. And so I probably missed heaps of stuff. It's 3 hours and 2 minutes, guys. But I thought I'd say my favourite moments, favourite things, and the general key points of the plot that I liked. And although there's more movies to come, we've got Spider-Man coming out in a couple of months, Black Panther, Doctor Strange, Eternals, bunch of movies coming. I just want to say, if they were to never make a Marvel movie again, they wiped their hands, walked away from the MCU, I'd feel very fulfilled. And I know I say that word a lot, but I mean it. It was a way to end the film in a very satisfying way. And again, you can now look back on the other movies, rewatch them again, and get different perspectives and different understandings for them, which I think is really cool because it adds a lot of rewatchability to it. Now, it obviously wasn't a perfect movie. There were a lot of plot holes with the time travel and everything, but overall this was a spectacular film. It was like being on a theme park ride, to be honest. And as I said, it probably had the best superhero battle I've ever seen. It was one of those things that as I was watching it, I could not believe that I was watching it. I leaned over to my friends. Our jaws were just, even now looking back, I can't believe I live in a world world where this has actually happened. And so now this is your time. I want to hear all your comments, all your thoughts, what you liked about the movie, what you didn't like about the movie, and most importantly, I want to hear your theories about the movie and what's to come. So thanks for being here, guys. I'm going to have to see it a few more times to catch all the Easter eggs. Feel free to point the other ones out for me in the comments down below. If you like this video, leave a like. So make sure you subscribe down below, and you're definitely going to want to keep up with it. Now that all the films are out for the Infinity Saga, I'm going to be ranking all 22 movies. I'm going to be doing it on my Instagram though. I'm going to create my own highlighted story, so make sure you give that Instagram a follow as well. And as always, work hard and be lucky.